Hey, welcome back to the second part of the discussion between JD and Laura, pastor's wife, and also a pastor's son, who happened to be my wife and my son. So I'm glad that you tuned in. I won't be anywhere around, but I'll just put the recording in here that they made on their own time, discussing spirituality in Taiwan and their journeys with spirituality while being pastor and pastor's wife, and then also going through a deconstruction. I hope you like it. If you haven't listened to the first episode, go back.
Welcome to the Desert Sanctuary with Carl and Laura Forehand.
Often when we have doubts about religion or simply want to ask questions, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert.
We would like to invite you to join our sanctuary, the Desert Sanctuary.
We've tried to pick guests that would resonate with and challenge us and our fellow seekers here in the desert.
We believe that a key to the journey is to keep asking good questions, and we believe that all stories are sacred.
Our hope is that you will find life and healing for your body and mind, and that you will be able to be where you are and be who you are.
And now, here is our show.
You spent a lot of time, especially in those very early years, with dad, like you would. I mean, I was home with, I guess, Abby at the time. I don't know. I guess in Omaha we had Lily. So I was maybe home with your two sisters, and you and dad would go to different churches and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, so he always talks about how he saw how the sausage was made, right? So did you see things that even at a young age that had you, I mean, I saw things too, and this is the part that bothers me when people are just like, well, my church isn't that way. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, I don't know. I don't know if I believe you that your church is not that way, because I just feel like so much, I mean, we're human. And so a lot of that humanness, where we're going to protect ourselves or protect our organization come
Yeah.
in, but like, what kind of things do you remember seeing where you're just like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, what we profess as, you know, loving and godly and Christ-like and all that kind of stuff.
That's a tough question because I think especially a lot of the stuff when I was traveling with dad early on, a lot of it I didn't notice that much because honestly we were running around. It was exciting, like it was just me and dad.
Yeah.
We're like having, meals and stuff and people are talking to me. It's like a little bit overwhelming. I'm kind of just like trying to hide back and let dad do talking and stuff. I think there was a couple times where I gave like testimony or whatever. But Um, overall, in like a lot of those cases, it was just like the most of the time I spent either like kind of just hanging in the background, not really understanding what was going on.
Mm.
I just remember, adults are talking and like this is kind of boring and like I kind of wish I was like playing or something, but
Yeah.
it's like somewhat interesting. I'm in a new novel place, blah blah
Uh,
blah.
yeah.
But the other part of that was just like playing with the other kids and like the other kids were always cool. Like, hey, other kids, we're both kids, we want to play. Like, some of the kids are mean, but overall, whatever. I think I more noticed it in places where we were more permanent, I think.
Mm.
Because that's when you start to get to know people enough
Yeah.
to see the claws or
Hmm.
to see the hypocrisy and things like
Hmm.
that. So I think that's more what it was that I saw. Um, and then the other thing, obviously, for me that I did see you kind of see it everywhere, but it would depend. Obviously, for me, I would more interact with people that I'm more familiar with. But it was like, when you ask questions and there's not good answers.
Yeah.
Inconsistent. Like there's times like even with like, students where students will ask me a really complicated question or something that's like not in the book, or that I haven't studied before. I'm like, I've seen research on this, I think, but like, let me get back to you. Let me
Yeah.
double check numbers because I don't want to tell you something wrong. But like that very rarely happens with church.
Hmm.
And then there'll often be like we were talking about thought terminating cliche that gets tossed out, and then or oh, this is the Bible verse that fixes that, and then you push back on it, and they're like, yeah, but and then they throw out another one, or then they
Right.
kick the can out, whatever. That's the kind of stuff that really was like, okay, no, this is where I draw. I have you have to give me some sort of evidence, or you have to just say like, well, we don't know, but you can't use that we don't know to like
Right.
discredit science or something. Like
Right.
you can't be
Right.
like, well, God works in mysterious ways, but like we know for a fact evolution is not accurate, and the Earth is 5,000 years old, even though we have no evidence to prove it. It's like you lost me. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I get it. Um, you ran sound pretty much at all the churches that we went to until you went to university.
Yeah.
So, like, was there ever this moment where you were just like, this seems less like an authentic worship and more like uh production?
Mm,
Or did you, I
certainly.
mean, or maybe you didn't even think about, that.
I don't know. There's probably some part of me that did. I wouldn't say I like spent a lot of time. I mean, I was a teenager. I was thinking about like chasing girls and
Right,
like
right.
how if I was gonna get to play in the football game on Friday or something like, or like, God damn it, I have to cover my like one of my friend's shifts or something like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I did, but like, it's hard also to parse like how much of it was like, did I have disdain for like the church, and how much of it was just being an angsty teenager that like just didn't like adults,
Mm-hmm.
and being
Mm-hmm.
told what to do. I definitely did. Like, I think the specifically working in the sound booth was great because, like, first of all, I was just out of the sight of like everyone, and I was kind of in charge of the panopticon, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a nice like role reversal for like an adolescent to now be like watching over. Like, basically, the only person that could keep eyes on me was dad,
Yeah.
and he was a person like I didn't. I was like, yeah, he watches me all the time. And if I really need to get away with something, well, sometimes I sneak past stuff him anyway. So like, at least I have practice with this guy. Just kidding. But then the rest of the time it would be all these people in front of me, and it would be, what do I care if they're going to make some snide comment about like, me being too late on the slide because I was turning next to whoever was running sound with me or like hanging out with me and said something stupid. I missed the slide for 2 seconds. Like, whatever. I'm just going to look back at you and be like, turn the fuck up. Look,
Yeah.
you watch the show. Why are you worried about my job? You want to come back here and do it?
You're
Didn't fucking think
right.
so. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I like it's the same thing I was talking about earlier with like my jobs. This is things I like. Like, if I want to do something like that, like I like to get really good at it. That way, like I'm somewhat above reproach. But I don't know. Like, yeah, I think it was eye opening for me in a way that like I kind of understood. I think for a long time
Mm-hmm.
because you see maybe that like answers your original question is that like you see a lot of little things that I don't know if I would have like been like, oh, that's bad, or like that's lazy in terms of your spirituality or whatever, but I do think it accrues over time. Like, I think that probably went back to when I was like traveling with dad when he was pastoring, but I think it also accumulated much more quickly, and probably because like I had a more developed brain that had better like long-term memory storage. But like, that I would sit in the back and watch these people who profess to be like the most dedicated Christians
Mm-hmm.
fucking sleep through the sermon and shit.
Right. Yeah.
And
Well,
then
I probably
and
knew
then
it all.
and then
That's why.
compl- and well, yeah, they knew it all. But then they would wake up and be like, good sermon, or oh, I have some issues with that one. It's like,
Yeah. Right.
you don't have issues with anything besides whatever dream you were having. Like, good job catching a couple of REM sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, anyway, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I think, but I think I was at the same time as I was figuring that out for religion, I was figuring that out for government and everything. So I think I had a thing that was just like, okay, adults are hypocrites, and like,
Mm.
and people to a degree are hypocrites. So it's like
Right.
I'm just going to be really cautious about who I actually trust
Yeah.
in terms of like, yeah. Again, I can cordially get along with anyone because it was kind of a survival tool, but like there's a yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm very very slow to like actually trust people because of
Yeah.
all that.
I totally relate to that. I mean, because I think that at all the churches we went to, there was something about being a pastor's wife where it was like the women like glom onto you. I remember at our last church, like, well, it was at every church, but it was like somebody would, glom onto me right away. And it was all of a sudden like I was supposedly their best friend, and I remember that at our last church, like, I knew this person for 6 months and they were like saying I was their best friend. And it wasn't because I was trying to be their best friend. I think that part of my personality is kind of like yours, where I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to have compassion. I may not always agree with everything you say, but
Yeah.
especially since deconstructing, I feel like I have even more compassion for like where people might be.
Yeah.
But those are the very same people that would then turn around and stab me in the back and just be horrible. And, I don't know. I guess maybe I just haven't heard a lot from other pastors' wives, maybe a couple that they totally get what I'm saying. Like they understand that. But I just feel like because of that, I have real trust issues. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, though. I mean,
Yeah.
because I think, maybe I needed to be a little more guarded with who I am and who I trust. But and you don't have to answer this question, but
Mm.
you've mentioned like social anxiety, and I mean, I definitely have that too. Um,
Mm.
I recently spoke at the Missouri State Teachers Association. I gave like just two 1 hour long presentations on.
Just two 1 hour long presentations
I
in
mean,
front of the Missouri Teachers Association. Come on,
I know,
easy.
but
You don't have to be so self-effacing. It's all
But
right.
but see, that's what I do. I like downplay stuff.
I know.
And
Yeah.
and not
I
because I'm
wonder where
like,
I get that trait.
oh, it's not because I'm like seeking approval or compliments or anything. I really do feel like,
I
yeah,
know.
no big deal. But anyway, but I was so anxious to speak in front of adults. Like, kudos to you for teaching high school students, because I think I would just be a nervous wreck. I feel like I have some semblance of control with, teaching first, second, or third graders. But anyway, but I was so anxious about speaking in front of these adults
Mm.
that at one point I got a bloody nose, so I took my blood pressure. My blood pressure was like 167 over 101. I thought, holy shit, I'm going to stroke out here.
Wow.
Needless to say, I was also getting sick and didn't realize it. But
Okay.
like, so I do have, like, if I have to stand up and in front of my colleagues at work and just
Yeah.
give like a, 5 minute spiel on something, I would rather be in a room of 30 third graders, honestly, than, and it's not because I have horrible, mean coworkers. They're all like,
Yeah.
super nice and are attentive and things like that, and the same was true here. But all that to say, where do you think your social anxiety, and listen, I think anxiety is something that is absolutely passed down, that it's been proven scientifically that mothers who are anxious can absolutely pass that on to their children. So, no doubt you probably got a lot of that from me. But do you think that, I mean, did you first start realizing that social anxiety in the church setting? You said that, sometimes, when you would travel with dad, you were around a lot of adults and just kind of tried to like hide in the background. Was that because of social anxiety, or do you think that once you got older and maybe, like you said, working in the sound booth, people would turn around and kind of look at you like, what the fuck you doing? You're 2 seconds late on this slide,
Mm.
which is would piss me off, JD. It really would. I'm like, I'm not turning around. Like he's got it back there. Like it just would make me mad that people were just like, really, that's what you're gonna critique today? That's what you're not gonna maybe like look and see how this,
I,
sermon
yeah.
there might be things you need to work on in your own life, as opposed to
It's,
looking at a 16-year-old and going, let's
yeah,
go,
Bill,
buddy.
you were asleep 2 minutes ago. Shut the fuck up. No, but
Right?
I think it was good for me because it taught me like you're not gonna die. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like you these adult like what are they gonna come out and berate me after the show? Because I knew Dad had my back, so it's like I'm not really worried. Like also like Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, what
So
was
the question
what is
was,
the
yeah,
question
sorry,
again?
I'm rambling as well,
No, it's
but
okay.
um, do
I
you
started it.
feel like that social anxiety, like where do you think that stems from? Was it?
I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg thing because like you talk about like the genetic, kind of the heritability of anxiety, and there's definitely studies that show there's heritability, but it's not like 100%. And I tend to think, as with a lot of like um, mental disorders, is that there's a lot of time there's some sort of some level, and I think that varies of predisposition, but there's also like triggering events in a lot of cases.
Mm,
But I don't know if it was like, I don't think it was one thing. I think part of it is kind of conditioned in over time where it's just you're in so many new places with so many different people, and you quickly realize that everyone has different standards, and at different times the same people's standards are different
right.
depending on their mood or situation or
Hmm.
whatever, or who else is around, and they have to, like, I think that, and I don't think this was conscious. I think there was something maybe that might have been subconscious about this. And again, this is just kind of my speculation because I don't know. I never like sat down at, 5 years old and was like, there it is.
Yeah.
I figured it out. But I think that might be part of it is just realizing, like, to be honest, it's better if I just kind of like sit back and observe. I think that's also why I like photography is because it lets me, I have to sit back at a distance and kind of observe what's happening and look for and react to like what's going on. Especially like with street photography and stuff.
Right.
Um, which I think that also taught me how to like jump in and jump out of conversations. But like we just had our Christmas party, and like I walked in, I came in late, and I was immediately like everyone was immediately like, hey, how's it going? Like ask me. I was like, no, don't, like, not now. You guys keep doing what you were doing. I'm gonna sit down and like acclimate to this because I don't want to talk to everyone at the same time. It's because it's the same thing at school where I'll have a kid come up to me and start talking, and another kid walks up and starts talking, and I'm like, hold on, this, and then okay, I'll wait for you, and then okay, finish what you said. I missed what you said because they were. Then another kid comes, and then this one starts talking again because the other kid, and it's like,
I'm
hey,
out.
like you have to. You were first, you're second, you're third. You all wait, and then they're like, "Okay, well, never mind." I was like, "No, not never mind." But you do have to wait. Like you can't all like ask. I can't under. And then like sometimes if I have kids do it too much, I'll make them do it. I'm getting off topic again, but I'll make them do it where I'll be like, "Okay, you remember everything that I say, and then this kid's gonna come and talk to you, and then this kid's gonna remember everything we say. Ready, go." And then I'll be like, "Hey, can you?" And then like we'll all start talking, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, I get it." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." But I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question, but I think that's part of it is it just taught me like part of it is I just don't want the attention
Uh-huh.
because it's overwhelming, I think, for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Someone who does want the attention is this dog that keeps crying beside me. But yeah, I think I don't know. I just got really comfortable with like I don't want to be the center of
Yeah.
attention because yeah, I don't know.
Was that this is the psychologist, I do have a undergrad in psychology, so I have to overanalyze everything, right? Got to overanalyze it all. So
Mhm.
that not wanting to be the center of attention, that just makes me go back to, religion in a way, because it's like you're
Mhm.
not supposed to think too highly of yourself. So was that any part of the messaging?
I think there's definitely something there about being humble.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's another thing that I go back and forth on because I think that overall is good. Though I will say that it took me a long time to take credit for stuff,
Mm.
and it's still also like it's still in between where
Hmm.
I'm trying to like I do try to give myself credit because I have students that I'm working with like through this on, which also helps me realize it myself too, where it's
Right,
just like, no,
right,
no, no, you need to take, like, you did well and people genuinely appreciate what you did. You need to take credit for it. But also being like, hey, I still need to work on stuff and I can get better. And like
right.
finding the balance between those two, but not like it turning into like some weird cognitive dissonance or something. Um, So yeah, I don't know. I guess I think the answer is like yeah, there's probably something to that. Um, but I think if you find it again, if the correct balance is found, which I think again in our family, I think was struck as about as well as it could have been. I
Mhm.
think it's okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Our family wasn't perfect, but
Did pretty well. I mean,
I
again, when
mean,
I compare it to the rest of my peers, with the amount of like divorces and broken families that I know, and even then, like again, a lot of them still turn out, great, whatever. But like,
right.
yeah, I could have had it a lot worse. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah, one
I
of the things
mean,
where it's like it's the same thing as we were just talking about. Like I want to be honest about like the things that were minorly traumatic. I don't think I went through any like major trauma really, but things that were traumatic or like that were bad, that were I would like to correct or that we should work on or
yeah.
whatever. But also being like on the whole, I I pretty much lucked out. I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, and to be fair, like, I think that's what every generation should think about. Like, I wanted to do things differently than my parents did. I mean, my parents got divorced and for good reason. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not throwing any shade at anybody,
for
but
sure. No,
um
but sometimes
it,
divorce is the best option.
it really is, right? But also, within the church, divorce, God hates divorce. And so while I didn't want that to be a part of my story, there was also that religious aspect that can,
Hmm.
which I would tell anybody, like, if there's any kind of abuse going on, like, take that whole narrative out of
Hmm.
your vocabulary, because you don't need to put up with any kind of abuse. You need to get out of that. But I think also, like, I look at Abby, your sister Abby,
Hmm.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
she and her husband do things so much better with their kids than I feel like I did. And that's like, I don't feel guilty or shame about that. I'm like, that is what we should be striving for as every generation. Like, and that's why I, kind of go back to the whole belief thing, and like just going, well, that's how I was raised, so that's what I believe.
Mm.
I love
Mhm.
how you and your sisters like challenge that, even though I feel like you maybe couldn't have told us when you were first starting to challenge your beliefs. I do love that you guys, challenge some of those beliefs, that I'm not just going to take what I've been handed and not think about it critically. So,
Mm.
which I think caused dad and I do think that, I mean, I don't know, we didn't discuss like where we were,
Mhm.
but I feel
Yeah.
like I was telling you, when you were 3 or 4 days old, I think that's when that shift started happening for me,
Yeah.
even though I didn't verbalize it, right? I didn't feel like that was safe,
Yeah.
and not because your dad wasn't safe, but just because, it's funny because I'm always like, I don't want to be responsible for bringing your dad's ministry down, but props to me. I did. I did in all three places, right?
You don't need
So,
no water.
yeah, yeah. So, whether it was my taking my 21-year-old daughter to a winery for her birthday, how dare I?
Winos, booze
I
hounds.
don't even know what it was at the other two churches, but that's the one that sticks out. So, but it was always something I did, something I did. So,
Always dancing or
oh, that's
booze.
right. That was the first church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, even though we were encouraged to go to the street dance and get to know anybody, nobody told us we weren't supposed to dance
And you were
together.
and you were married, but yeah, God
And
forbid we turn this into the fucking plot of Footloose.
and it was, yeah, right. And it was a slow dance. I mean, there was no gyrating going on.
Yeah, but I
I don't
mean,
know.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think the second church, maybe it wasn't me at the second church. I just remember a certain family coming over, and the same family that told, your dad, that he was called to be a preacher.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were the ones that sat in our backyard and said, well, we never thought you were called to be a preacher. So I remember that's a core memory too. I remember just standing up and going inside like, this is absolute bullshit. So,
Yeah.
but
I do love when people get all the messages and then they seem to be like, somewhat discordant, but God works in mysterious ways. So,
right. And at that,
fine.
we should just stop our conversation because that's a
I
conversation
just
stopper.
the fun thing is to throw that in like to like back at people when they're just like, but it's hard because you don't want to be that asshole, but there's like that's why for me like I try not to discuss a lot of like religion and stuff unless people really want to get into it, and then I'm like, okay, but I gotta be honest, like if you're gonna be not nice about this, I'm gonna be not nice about this because like
Right.
I have some feelings and I also have like I'm not a theological expert, but like I spent what 20 plus 25 plus years of my life in the church. Like
Yep.
I have some pretty good ideas, and so yeah.
Yeah.
But it is fun to kind of turn the not fun thing is that like most of the time it goes over their head or they're just like you're just being mean, and then they play the victim, which is always
Mm,
fun.
mm-hmm.
A good tactic of religious people. Hey, what are you crying about?
I don't even hear that baby crying.
He's just making little whiny noises, but it's just because I'm not paying enough attention to her.
Well, my gosh. Well, I, it's funny because we had talked about like maybe doing a podcast over teaching, and I definitely want to do that.
I think we
But
can have a long series. We could start our own podcast, to be honest,
I
but we can
I think
definitely
we
do one series.
should. I mean, I think we should. Like, I don't know, give it some thought. Think about what we should call it, but like you do a podcast with Dad and with Stuart called
Yeah.
The Unlearning Curve, and I do not say this because you are my son, but it is my favorite podcast. I look forward to it coming out. You guys are funny, but you kind of call it like it is, which I appreciate. So listeners,
Yeah.
if you listen to the Desert Sanctuary, sometimes it can be very, all about religion, but if you want something that kind of takes a funny turn, I would listen to The Unlearning Curve for sure. But I also do a podcast about whole brain teaching, but I would love to do just a podcast where we just talk about teaching because I think um there's some things that need to be fixed, especially in
Yeah.
America when it comes to education. So,
Yeah,
but
I think there's also just like a lot of understanding of like the like developmental psychology and psychology in general that like a lot of people just don't understand, and if they would put a little bit of effort into it and like study, I think
yeah,
we'd be a lot better off as a society.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely. But we'll have to think about getting something like that started, or we can just do another episode of the Desert Sanctuary and just talk shit about teaching.
I'm okay with that. We
Yeah.
can, here's the thing, we can do as many episodes as we want, but I mean, we could do 15 more of the Desert Sanctuary ones and still have enough episodes to start a podcast because holy moly, if you couldn't just talk every day about like the bullshit that it is teaching and also
Yeah.
the amazing stuff that comes with teaching.
Right.
It's like such
Right.
a it's such a Sisyphean Herculean like task where it's just like sometimes you're just like this is the worst thing anyone could do, and
Mm,
sometimes you're like this is the most amazing stuff that
yeah.
someone could ever do.
It's funny because it usually takes me about, I don't know, the first quarter of school, like I'm feeling that what what am I doing? Like
Yeah.
when can I retire kind of thing. And then you kind of get over that hump, or at least
Hmm.
this is for me, and I'm just like, this is rewarding. You're because I think you start making those connections with students and those relationships are kind of becoming solidified,
Hmm.
where you kind of know like you've got this um I don't know relationship, because I don't know how I would describe the relationship, but this good relationship where your kids know you care about them,
Yeah.
They're not trying to still feel you out. You're not trying to feel them out,
Yeah.
They realize, your consistency, they feel safe. And so then like, yeah, then it becomes like you're in that there's so much greatness about and
Hmm.
you start seeing their successes and things like that. I being that I teach the littler ones, I see light bulbs, and I'm sure you see this too,
Yeah.
but in a different way. But you start seeing those light bulbs go off and how they're reading and comprehending and just, all the things. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's when you get really happy about it. So I think that would be good, talking about just all the good, the bad, and the ugly about teaching. And that's true about all professions. So I
Yeah.
certainly don't mean to like rag on teaching because it has been something I've done for 20 years, and you're going on, I don't know how many years have you've been teaching.
10.
Yeah. Ever since you
Yeah.
got over to
11 or something.
Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that's definitely a part of us. But we'll start to wrap up this segment, and then we'll talk about, definitely off camera. We'll definitely try to come up with either a podcast or another time we can talk more about teaching. But so I wanted to end with saying, so where if you had to, and I don't feel like you're the type of person to like put all your eggs in one basket or define yourself in a box or anything like that. But if you
Hmm.
had to say kind of where you are spiritually today, right? And I feel like spirituality, I'm learning, is very fluid. Like where I
Hmm.
am today is not where I was 10 years ago and will probably not be where I am 10 years from now. And I'm okay
Hmm.
with that, right? Like people talk about deconstructing and, oh, well, if I deconstruct, that means I've got to reconstruct. And I'm just like, I don't feel like I need to necessarily, and I don't say that like I'm just going to go through life loosey goosey, but I don't feel like there's anything that I need to like be so rigid. Like when I
Hmm.
think about constructing something, it's very solid, it's very rigid. I'm just either I'm not there right now or I just don't feel the need to ever be there. So, where would you say you are today as far as spirituality?
Yeah, I would also say I'm not very rigid. When people ask me, I usually say um, I guess the easiest way would be to say like I'm agnostic, but I also like do a lot of spiritual practices, I guess. Um, like I guess for an agnostic, I pray like a decent amount.
Hmm.
Um,
Hey, can I interject and say when you
mhm.
pray, like do you pray to a certain deity? Do you just kind of put it out there in the universe kind of thing? Yeah. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
too.
Yeah, there's just like there are times like and a lot of this I think is like connected to just being like growing up in the church and like in certain periods like when there are like you don't know what to do or whatever like or I just feel like grateful. Yeah, I'll just say something. It depends like sometimes it's at temples because like you said I do a lot of temple stuff and I was thinking like also like talking about doing another podcast, I'm also trying to start this like kind of ethnographical thing I'm gonna do with like the temple stuff,
Hmm.
mixed with like photography, but also like hopefully doing like some interviews and stuff. So it's
Cool.
another thing I have coming down the pipe. But yeah, like a lot of busyness. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I tend to come down on like I'm just kind of okay with whatever,
Yeah.
and my biggest thing like right now is like the spirituality stuff in terms of like praying or like those kind of rituals. Like I don't necessarily mind the rituals and like for the temple kind of stuff, I do it just because it's the phase I'm in, I guess, with like the
Hmm.
photography and stuff. So,
Hmm.
but also like the prayer and stuff like that is mostly like a me thing, whether I do it at the temple festival, like with a group, or whether I just go to the temple by myself and pray, or I do it on a mountain, or I do it before I go to bed, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't feel like a deep calling to like any sort of religion.
Hmm.
Um, and I definitely don't pray to like any god specifically.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's for me it's pretty open, and like my biggest thing right now is just trying to connect people because
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to that in terms of like the spiritual nature of like human collectiveness.
Yeah.
I think there's yeah, for me there's something to that, and like even if there's not like an actual spiritual nature to it, there is like just community and things like that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah. For me
I
that's
th-
like the biggest thing right now is building community and like
yeah.
teaching or doing my best to teach other people to like build
Right.
community where they are.
Yeah, I would say that's very similar to like where I am. I feel like I look back at the times that, I quote unquote had God at the center, and I feel like I lacked community, right? I lacked human interaction because I was more afraid of, well, what if they don't believe like I do? I don't feel like, you know, in religion you're always, I shouldn't say always, but I felt that, well, if they didn't believe like I did, I somehow had to convince them to believe like I did. And I was never comfortable with that. And so
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of halted some real human connectiveness and community that I
Mm.
could have had. Whereas now I feel like since that's not like my main focus, right? I'm open. Like I do feel like, and this is where I say like I'm even different than I was 10 years ago, right? So when we
Yeah.
first, started formally going through the deconstruction, left church and all that kind of stuff, I didn't have that, you know, confidence I feel like that I do now, where I can just be super open with, I still had that fear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like if somebody said, well, I don't believe in God, I'm an atheist or something like that would kind of scare me, right? Because even though I didn't really know what I believed, I'm still gonna like
I
sort
think
of kind of,
it's not because even though you didn't know, it's because you didn't know.
yeah,
And that's so it's threatening. It's like, oh, you
right.
believe something different. Well, this is what I've been told.
Yeah.
How do I square the circle kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So now it's just interesting to me. Like it's fun to kind of see that kind of growth in myself to where,
Mm.
like, if you tell me you're an atheist or an agnostic or you know, are a Satan worshiper,
Mhm.
like, I'm like, okay, I mean that you do you, like I'm cool with that. But it's also translated to other areas of my life, right? And I saw this happening when I taught at Mound City, the very first school, because I did have a student that for whatever reason,
Mhm.
I won't understand this and that's okay, but for whatever reason decided to like come out to me.
Mhm.
And like I just remember sitting there very like non-judgmentally, and we were like still in the church, I believe, at that point.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, so like even in those areas, like because I remember, like I said, when Abby first went to college, I was
Mhm.
still feeling like, oh well, we can love the gays, but
Yeah,
we don't approve of their
hate to sin, not the sinner.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't approve of their lifestyle, and you just keep reading your Bible, and you'll come to that conclusion too.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
gross. But just to see how that's transitioned, and it feels good that people feel safer around me now, if that makes any sense at all.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I don't think that for a while, and even like I don't feel that even at certain points, maybe my own children felt safe. I can say that I feel that Abby's comment to me, what saying that, well, there's just things that I don't believe that you believe. That it did kind of break my heart in a way because I thought, wow, like she doesn't trust me enough. And that
Mhm.
had more to say about me than it did her. I definitely was not looking at her going,
Yeah.
how dare you not trust me
Yeah.
enough to tell me this thing? That
Yeah.
really was almost an indictment about myself than any kind of blame shifting. But I don't know if you feel that way too. I just feel more, I mean, while I still have anxiety,
Mhm.
you know, about a lot of things. I do feel in a lot of ways as I continue my journey, I do feel more free,
Hmm.
you know.
Well, I think a good exercise for that too, and Lily and I were talking about this today, is just like we were talking about exposure therapy. Um,
Mhm.
but just like that is like kind of part of it is like what I've found is useful for both the things you're talking about, both making me less rigid, but also like more accepting and like also feel like people trust me more. A good exercise for that, and also a good exercise for like getting people to open up and feel more comfortable with you is just asking questions and then just being like, okay. And if you have like if you think something is confusing or like whatever, then you just ask follow.
Yeah.
Hey, my dogs are kind of.
I
I think
thought
my
somebody
dogs.
just sneezed, but no, it
No,
was your
my
dogs.
dogs are. One of them is being aggressive. If they keep fighting, I'm gonna have to have a talk
You,
with them.
you're fine.
We'll see. But anyway, I think it's like it is a lot of it is about like if you just listen to people, people will open up a lot to you, and if you can like continually tell them, hey, listen, like because I've had some students and I've taught some students for like 3 4 years, and it takes sometimes 2 years for them to like open up,
Yeah.
but you tell them continually, hey, listen, like they start telling you something like, oh no, I shouldn't, you know, like I don't know. Of course, like with high schoolers, sometimes it's like, okay, if this is like not appropriate, like yeah, don't tell me. But like if it's about like you're worried that I'm gonna judge you or something, then no, like don't like
Hmm.
listen. I did dumber shit than you can ever imagine when I
Yeah.
was in high school and university. Like you're gonna be fine. Like I'm not gonna judge you. Like but like that process of just like being just sitting and listening to people and being like and then asking active like questions that show that you're actively listening and asking them to expound upon their points more. It's been good for me just in terms of understanding how people think and how
Hmm.
those individual personalities think, and then like also when I start to feel those, being mindful of like now I'm feeling defensive or something about because I have this belief or because I'm not sure what I think about that. And so like now I feel like as a teacher, I need to give I need to
Yeah.
give the teacher answer and like, no, actually, no, I just need to shut the fuck up and listen to what they're saying and let them keep going. Like
Right.
sometimes that's just what it is like you just have to listen to people
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll explain themselves. It's for good or for bad. Like if you want someone to like hang themselves with their own words, you get them to keep talking. If you want someone to trust you and to like actually understand them, then it's the same thing. You just get them to talk. But
Right.
it all involves like us taking our ego and stuffing it down and being like,
Yeah.
I don't like I know what I think. Like if they want to know what I think, they can ask me. But
Hmm.
otherwise, why do I need to give them some sort of like input on my behalf?
Yeah. I think that's what your sister Lily appreciates about like my mom, your grandma.
Yeah.
Like because and she even shared that with me that, grandma's not afraid to ask the questions and the follow-up questions like if there's
Yeah.
something she doesn't understand about
Yeah.
you know, something, she'll
Yeah.
she'll ask. I mean, honestly, grandma gets more information out of Lily than I do because she asks questions, right? And I'm like, part of me is still afraid, like, oh, am I gonna step on some toes or whatever? But I also think that you guys are very like, if you don't want to answer it, you'll just tell me. Like, not in a mean way, but I think you'll just
Yeah.
be like, I'm not ready to discuss that right now. But
But
I also
but
think
well,
that I'm in a better place of going, okay, I get
yeah.
it. When you're ready,
That's
you'll talk to me about it.
that's part of asking those questions is you have to accept whatever answer that people give you.
Right.
And you can follow up and you can be like, "Well, can you give me some insight or something?" But like you're kind of getting at, there is a point where it has to be like, either you're going to get the answer that you're looking for, whether that's actually the answer you want or not, but whatever, you get an answer or you don't. But yeah, then you have to be like, okay, I accept that. That's
Yeah.
fine. Maybe we'll get there next time. But yeah, I genuinely think like just asking questions is like the only real way that you can like start to understand
Yeah.
different people's perspective because like you can't understand people's perspective. People come from such different
Yep.
yeah, such
Yep.
a different place. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been a good conversation. Of course, we've talked for almost 2 hours because that's what we do.
I've been talking to the forehands for probably close to 6.5 hours
Right,
today. So
right, because you had that long discussion, which I'm excited. You're getting ready to host your sister there in Taiwan, so I'm excited for her to see
I've
your.
informed her of the what's it called? The the what's the app that you have?
Oh,
The picture frame app.
oh, Framio.
The Framio.
Yeah.
We're getting ready for the Framio
Okay.
competition.
I'm
So
gonna I'm gonna want lot. I even told her too. I'm like, make sure you send me lots of pictures on your Framio.
I
And
said we're gonna send a
honestly,
lot.
like my students love you. They don't know you, but they love you and they have all kinds of questions for you and they always get so excited. In fact, they asked me, they said, "Is he coming back like he did last year to talk to us about Lunar New Year?" And I'm like, "Hi, I mean, I wish, but they don't have the concept of travel
Of a
and
$1,000
cost.
plane ticket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and cost and all that kind of stuff that it's just not that easy to come back year after year. But
Listen, tell them if they want to start a crowdfunding campaign for me, I will come back every year. If they can
honestly,
pay for a plane ticket, I
yep.
will come back.
Here's the deal. What's funny about that is before my teaching partner and I started teaching third grade together, the
Mm.
previous third grade teachers would fundraise every year so that they could go to Jefferson City to on their field trip.
Who
Well,
needs that?
my
Bring
teaching
me
partner
back.
and I were like, absolutely, we are not taking 8 and 9 year olds overnight to Jefferson City.
Nightmare.
No, thank
Nightmare.
you. So maybe instead we do fundraiser so we can have Mr. Forehand come over and teach us about Lunar New Year.
Hey,
So,
listen, that's one route. The other route is if once I start this, I'm gonna start this new YouTube channel doing again. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it, but this kind of like ethnography look at like the Taiwan Temple Festival thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of like in the brainstorming phase,
Hmm.
but it's gonna be potentially like really complex. But anyway, yeah, I mean, if people also want to just go buy my books and stuff like that, I'm
Yeah,
working
because
on a new.
you have like picture books, right? Or photography books, I should say.
Yeah, I have a couple. I have a book that I did from India when I went.
Yep.
I have a book of it's called anyway. We can do. I could do. Maybe I'll bring you on to explain this book on my podcast that I'm trying to get started.
Let's do
But
it.
there's one about Balida, which is like this medicinal drink, alcohol
Hmm.
beverage, crazy thing here. Anyway, I'm doing a series on that. So I have the first book of that, and then I have another book that I'm working on getting funding for right now, because I can't working on a teacher's salary. I can't
Oh,
like
yeah.
afford to print it right now.
Right.
Um, but I'm working on it. Anyway, that one's about like Temple Festival stuff, so that's probably going to coincide with like when I start releasing the podcast stuff. But anyway, I'll figure that stuff later. But maybe I'll have you on there to talk about explain some of the stuff to you
That'd
so
be great.
you can
That'd be
learn about
great.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, we definitely, you definitely need to send me the links to the books because I have been remiss in purchasing them and I've been meaning to, but send me.
I'll just
No,
send you
no,
them.
no. I want to support your work.
I have a stack of a bunch of books. It's fine.
That's
I'll
okay.
just
Just
mail
tell
you
me
a
how much
bunch of
they
the books.
are or how much it costs to ship them over here,
It'll
and
be fine.
I'll
I
send you the
think you might
money.
be able to. I have a bunch of them on Amazon too. You
Okay.
can buy them off. I don't usually support Amazon,
I
but you
know.
know.
Yep. But okay, I'll look on there. Get on
All right.
Amazon, people. Check it out. It's good photography. It's really good. Like you've had your, that can be a whole nother podcast talking about your photography, but
It's
because you've
fine.
had some things actually chosen to be displayed and correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done some like international galleries in like Europe and
Yeah.
yeah. But and yeah, I do some very specific photography, which I think like nowadays a lot of people like street photography is not something a lot of people understand, or like have much like interaction with, I guess.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah,
Yeah. So
It'll be
many
something I
things.
talk about on the channel a lot. But yeah, if you think the audience wants to talk about photography, I could talk about
Well, we can
photography
talk
for
about
hours.
whatever we want, but that'll be we can have lots of episodes. Like you said, maybe one of these days we'll get our own podcast and or have me on yours and we can talk about all these things. So,
Both and we'll
yes,
brainstorm some stuff.
for sure.
All right.
But anyway, what time is it there? Because it is
11:25
okay, it's 9:25 a.m.,
p.m. here.
11:25 p.m., almost December 26th where you are, and we're just starting December 25th here, which that's another thing. Side note, my kids cannot wrap their brain around. So, which I think is hilarious because you could just see their like the cogs spinning, like, I don't get it. How is it already tomorrow over there? So, but
3D maps sometimes help with that stuff, but
oh,
it's
that's
a
a
tough
thought.
it's a
Okay.
tough it's a tough concept,
Yeah.
especially for kids that are just like
Yeah.
just starting to understand like those kind of like spatial.
Yeah, they barely can do elapsed time. So trying to think of it
Hey,
being a whole
listen,
nother day
me
somewhere.
too, me too. I
Yeah, no,
kind
I
of
get it.
still.
It's not my favorite thing to teach, but anyway. But okay, well, we'll sign off for now. It was so good to see you and talk about stuff. And I know we just kind of talked about, your religious journey, your spiritual journey, but I don't know. I feel like I know more about you now, which is always good.
Okay, you always have to do the initial stuff to
Yeah,
start getting it out.
yeah,
But again, we could do 100 episodes of these, I'm sure.
absolutely. Well,
We'll
we'll
always
we'll
the four hands,
discuss.
if nothing else, can always talk.
We can always come up with something to talk about for sure. All right. Well, to the listeners, thank you so much for joining us and just letting us, catch up with one another because that's always good. But until our next episode, or whether it be on the Desert Sanctuary or perhaps our own or whatever work JD is doing, we will be sure to catch up with you next time. See you later. Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary podcast.
Remember, all who wander in the desert are not lost.
We believe all of our stories are sacred.
We are always here if you need someone to hear your story.
Check out our blog on Pathos and also our YouTube channel.
And stay tuned for our Leaning Forward conference.
Remember, we love you.
And be at peace.